Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, is Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, man, what's happening?
Starting to enjoy the first few days of school break, but constantly getting texts and doing stuff with football stuff already. I can't believe we're 1 week into June and already dealing with September football for junior high. It's just crazy already to think that I messaged you this earlier, just to think that we're 2 months or 8 weeks away from first college football. It's just crazy to think all those dates are coming out.
That goes by quick. We hit the summer, and then you blink, and then the summer's over. So that's what we're going to deal with. So I think show-wise, we will be happy for that. Obviously, it is baseball season, and very much only baseball season, which I absolutely love, but it is tough to come up with 2 hours of discussion and topics. And I'm doing my best not to just start rehashing things like you get on the mainstream stuff. Like if you watch First Take, it's always going to be about, like, they're always going to just hit the same three topics and then fill in some top stuff here. You watch whatever the Skip Bayless one is now. I always forget what that one's called. It's LeBron James, it's the Dallas Cowboys, and then maybe a main topic. We tried to avoid that, so we tried to hit some things here and there. So we have some fun with it. Today's show was a little bit more difficult to come up with said things, but I think we did a good enough job. We will see. So this is a perfect time. If anybody's out there and has questions that you would like to see us discuss, we are very much open to that fact. But on today's show, of course, Major League Baseball will be a big focal point as we continue to get closer and closer to the mid part of the year. All-Star voting has begun. That needs to just be changed. Let's just be honest. I'm tired of the fan voting and the way they do it, and just screw it. You could just vote as many times as you possibly can, and just we want website clicks, so on and so forth. We do have a NCAA college softball world champion, and it's no surprise who that ends up being. We have an NBA champion with, when we got to the final two, it's no surprise who ended up winning that one either. Could we have a Stanley Cup champion by the end of the night? We will see. Good chance Megan's not watching us because she's watching Vegas. Cannot blame her. Our sports-related draft today is by Mr. Robert Hagan. And Hagan, go ahead and hit him with it.
We're going to look at, we talked a little bit about everything, and they always start to rehash things, especially with Luis Reyes with chasing 400 and all that. I thought about, let's just find out which of these all-time records is one of the best ones. We're going to take and we'll tell us which ones we like the best or which ones we think are the top ones. But then we're going to also ask the question, do we think those will ever be broken? I didn't tell Randy that, but we're gonna look at each one of them and see if it's going to be a record that will ever be broken, at least in our lifetime.
Spoilers, none of mine will. Yours, one of the three, I think, will. And we'll get
It's a
to that
possibility
at the top of the hour. We'll get to that. However, one of them is kind of pinpointed to the topic at the beginning of our show. We'll get to. Of course, we'll talk more about the PGA and LIV merger, as that just continues to be a barn fire. It's a cluster of all clusters. It's not going to be pretty. It's not. And I don't know if golf's ever going to be the same. Whichever way that ends up going, we will talk about it in the second hour as well. Oh, it's interesting. Obviously, we'll talk some bowling. Banana Belt is getting closer and closer to wrapping things up. You have bowled in it, yes?
I bowled mixed doubles and I have bowled team. I had to turn down the opportunity to bowl singles and doubles this past weekend. I had already prior plans, but still got to get the last of my all events in, so I need to get my singles and doubles done.
So we'll talk about that, just some of our memories and stuff. I haven't bowled it the last couple of years, but definitely have some fond memories of that. Aussie Rules Football continues to get going. Somebody's team on the show won. And it's not who you expect, though. If you watch, obviously Robert's team couldn't win because they didn't play, and that's okay. And obviously, all the other sports that don't get enough airtime, we will talk about those at the end of the show. But let's get into it. Our main topic. This comes up with the Dalvin Cook release. So you've had DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook released over the last 2 weeks. Hopkins is getting closer and closer to signing. It seems possible that it's between the Titans and the Patriots, which are completely the two teams that everyone predicted when Hopkins got released. And we will see where Cook ends up. It seems like the front runner there is Miami, as they were close to making a trade for him, but just could not come to some sort of deal with Minnesota. We'll get to that. However, I think this release of Dalvin Cook really points out a big thing of just how much running backs have been undervalued in the NFL. They are quickly tossed aside once they hit a certain age. It used to be 30. Now it seems to be even younger than that when teams go, nah, we'll move on to the next. And for the most part, while we've seen some exceptions over the years, they don't get drafted that high either. So they're not even getting a great rookie contract, as teams will go, no, we'll wait for the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Chiefs with Pacheco getting him in the 7th round last year. Saw a couple of guys drafted early this year. We'll see how they pan out. But Robert, I'll just ask you, just right off the bat, straight up, are running backs undervalued in the NFL?
I think so a lot now because of the multiple headed running back system, and my team being one of the major ones that rotate between 3 running backs. And if you want to include one more, throw Lamar in that same conversation, you've got 4 different running backs you're handing the ball off to.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem like there is a major horse, like you were saying. There is not one guy that we see that gets the ball 30 plus touches, other than maybe a year ago, maybe Derrick Henry, who was getting the ball all the time. And it's just the way things are. I mean, they are wanting to keep these guys fresh. They want different styles for different scenarios too. You want one guy that'll power through the line, get you 2-3 yards, but that used to be the fullback, and we don't see that much anymore either.
Mm-hmm.
But you either get the guy that can run downhill right away, or the guy that can jump cut and make a move, and he's down the field, kind of like the Christian McCaffrey. But even Christian, you look at it too, he adds, I think, one other side of that scenario is he is a decent receiving running back. And
Mm-hmm.
so you don't find many running backs anymore that specialize in all 3 facets of, downhill, or even if you want to just say one more, in 4 facets, those that want to stay in and block, and so that's the biggest thing. Is I don't want to use the term one trick pony, but that's what it seems like. And so now these teams are going to the point of, I'm going to draft more running backs farther later in the rounds, like you were saying, 4, 5, and 6, and just intermingle them in and take workloads off of everybody else. And so I just don't think, the value of having 1-star running back is going to be a thing anymore.
But so my question to you, though, is all teams have 6 wide receivers, yet their top guy seems to be paid a ton. Why is that not the same with running backs, where you have, say, Baltimore, where it's 2 or 3 backs? But if you're on a team that has one specific one on top and then a decent backup, why isn't that running back paid a ton?
I think for the main thing is you look at receivers too. It's based on what they do. I mean, you look at Danny Amendola. Here's a great example. The only reason that name pops in my head is I've been trying to play catch up on the show that he was on CBS on Special Forces, but I tried to play catch up the other day. And you look, he was an inside guy. He was one of those ones that wanted to run the ball inside, crossing routes, that kind of stuff. And then you get the tight end version, of the Rob Gronkowski's. But then you have the guys that'll go long. And that's the thing. It's come to the point of when they come out of college or even into college, a lot of these receivers are already groomed to, okay, you're the long distance guy, you're going to do that. So it's that fine line, I think, of finding whether or not they are going to um how do I want to say this, what job skill is best for you and for the team to put you in. And like you said, these guys have 6 receivers. You look at Baltimore. Baltimore has been so terrible over the past 2 years, bottom of the league with receivers. But that, it seems with that group, there hasn't been an identity of who runs the best route, who does the best playmakers go. And so that's why they end up leaning on Lamar and him being that fourth running back. And it's just a bit, I think it boils down to is how are these offensive coordinators, designing things up. Baltimore now going through the idea of we're rebuilding the offensive playbook. How is things going to look? Which I think will benefit, like you were saying, the receivers. That might be a great benefit for Lamar. And I hate saying this name along with Bateman, but OBJ. How does OBJ, Lamar, and Bateman all coexist, with this new offense coming in?
Yeah, but to me, all of that sounds great and good. And Eric also makes a good point that, yes, with the league becoming more of a passing league, that you need multiple receivers. And I totally get that. However, the receivers have the same problem that the running backs do, that there's a shelf life for those receivers. Yet here we are with Odell Beckham Jr. That's a great example, who misses a complete year after an ACL tear, has not been what he was when he first started in the league. Yet Baltimore goes, here's $18 million. They're not going to do that with the running back. I guarantee you, Dalvin Cook, who has a longer shelf life than OBJ right now, is not going to get more than 11 or 12 a year from wherever he goes. And that's just kind of where it gets set. I mean, he's going to get about where the franchise tag is going to be my guess. The same thing with Hopkins. He might end up making more than Cook, even though he hasn't been able to play a full year. It's just this, to me, it's a weird mindset that we've gotten into, is like, well, running backs just fall off after 30, so we don't want to go farther than that, so we don't want to put all that money into them. And they get beat up and banged up with all the touches that they have to make, so they're not the same. Wide receivers for the most part are the exact same situation, where after a while we're like, yeah, but are they still elite? I mean, there's obviously exceptions to every rule. We see that with Derrick Henry, who continues to lead the league in carries and continues to be an elite running back. We see that with Devontae Adams as he's starting to get up there in age, and he is still one of the best receivers out there. It's just interesting to me that right now there are a ton of current free agents that are under the age of 30 that I think most teams years ago would have jumped all over, yet we're waiting on. Ezekiel Elliott still does not have a home. Dalvin Cook doesn't have a home. Leonard Fournette is close to 30, but and he's had a lot of wear and tear on his body, but he's still out there. Kareem Hunt has been fantastic wherever he goes. He's still out there. J.D. McKissick is more of a receiver than a running back half the time, but he still has not been signed. And James Robinson, who technically is a free agent now, but that's just because the Patriots cut him yesterday. And there's something wrong with James Robinson, where the Jaguars went, nah, we don't want you. That's fine. The Jets picked him up, played him for like a game, and went, you know what? We're good. And even the Patriots picked him up and went, we're not even going to make it
through the season,
through training camp with this guy. So something mentally is just wrong with or effort wise is wrong with James Robinson. But that's what I'm saying. And then you could have had Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard also on the market. They get tagged, and they have till mid of next month to sign. So they're set at their $10 million mark, and that becomes a big point of interest as well. Here we'll talk about in a second, but there's some fantastic running backs that are still on the market, and just NFL teams are not even jumping at them right now.
Yeah, and I think the big name on that list, and you said him at the beginning is Ezekiel Elliott. I think he could go to any place and probably get signed right away. We thought,
that's what we thought.
But and that's the big thing is you look at some of these teams that could use them, and I use this term lightly. I mean, now why couldn't he go in and fill the shoes of somebody in I hate saying it, but Seattle? Could Zeke end up in Seattle running for
He'd be a
Pete
great
Carroll?
fit,
I think he would be a great fit. And it boils down to also, and you said it, is some of the schemes and some of the playbooks for a lot of these ball clubs are getting so exotic. I want to use the word exotic in their terms, and what they do is, if you're not 100% in, and I think that's the issue. Maybe you were touching with Robinson, is maybe he's not understanding the offenses near as much. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, you look at Denver now with Sean Payton there. You've seen his play calls. You understand how his play calls. It's like 20 to 25 words just to run one play. And that it also includes an audible out, but to run the verbiage for some of these players, I don't think a lot of these players understand how much goes into it. And I'm wondering if maybe James Robinson might be a mental part because of how many teams he has sat in over the last 2 years.
One thing to talk about real quick, yes, going back to Eric's comment about this one, about the NFL being more of a passing league, running backs catch the ball too. And that's really been a big dynamic change in the NFL. You take out quarterbacks, obviously, because when you get all the passing yards, your numbers go way up. But total yard leaders in 2022, there were 12 different players that went over 1,500 yards. 9 of them were running backs. Only 3 were receivers, which shows that they should be more valued than a wide receiver. I mean, Aaron Jones, who is in a split backfield, had 1,500 yards. Pacheco, who was the backup for most of the year, ended up with 1,500 yards. Raheem Mostert, there's 37 running backs in that program. He almost had 1,600 yards. So that's what I'm trying to say is, not only do these guys run between the tackles, but they're part of your passing game. And yes, the passing game has completely evolved and you throw it a lot more. However, as Denny talked about Elliott, how many wide receivers are leading their teams to a Super Bowl? The Kansas City Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill, second in the league for wide receivers in total yards. They traded him away before last year and still won the Super Bowl.
And
however, Tyreek Hill is very much paid.
And with a quarterback that got injured, and he had multiple quarterbacks throwing to him. So that's a good point with Hill.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's quarterback and defense. Those are your main things. But I think running backs just completely get undervalued. And I went through some of the numbers, and obviously things get a little different with sign bonuses and just bonuses in general. But when you just look at cap hits going into 2023, I broke it down by position, of positions that a player is going to hit your cap by $10 million or more, because that's what teams mostly focus on. They don't mind giving extra bonuses because most teams are making billions of dollars at this point. So they don't mind giving these extra bonuses to bring people in. You just have to finagle the cap. There are 6 running backs right now that have a cap hit of 10 million or more, and half of those are only because they're franchise tagged, because the franchise tag is just over $10 million. The other 3, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, and Derrick Henry. There's 2 positions in the NFL that is not a punter or a kicker. There's only 2 positions that have fewer $10 million cap hits throughout the NFL. That's inside linebackers and centers. And that the centers kind of surprised me too, because other than left tackle, I would think center is kind of the next focus as far as keys to your offensive line. So there's 9 safeties, 7 right tackles, 10 guards. 11 cornerbacks are in there, 16 defensive ends, which I get, 28 edge rushers. Those are by far the most. Wide receivers are at 24. Quarterbacks weren't the most, which kind of surprised me. They're only at 16, but that is also how many quarterbacks are currently on their rookie deals, which really changes that number. But six running backs with a cap hit of $10 million or more, to me, is just shocking.
Yeah, and that just explains it. And you touched on the centers. I mean, these guys are the captains of that line, of blocking schemes, calling out plays, multiple things, and that is just crazy to see the caps and the money that is coming. And why wouldn't you want to use the guy that, or the guys or guy that is most versatile to hit the hole and to make a play with his feet, run downhill, those that are power running backs? I mean, you would think I grew up with a year where there was when there was the fullback, and there was a necessity to have those fullbacks. And now these offenses are designed with not using any kind of scheme with a lead blocker. They're using pulling guards. They're using tight ends.
It's coming, Denny. It's coming.
So, yeah. So I think we need to go back to the old school style of the running back and do a little bit more of a I formation, that kind of stuff. But then you become
not if you're not paying these guys. I wouldn't do it.
But that's the thing. But then you become predictable again. Of okay, you're setting up in this form. They're going to run. They're going to do that. So at least in the 5-man, 4-man, receiver double set and 3x2 sets, we're coming pass play all the time, and those guys are a little bit. It puts a lot more on these corners and these D backs anymore. So, like Eric said, it's all boiled down to it's become a passing league, and who can make plays as a mobile quarterback.
Just pay your running backs. That's all I ask.
Yep.
They put their bodies through a ton, and they deserve to be paid. All right, let's add to it here. Randy's Believe It or Not running back edition. Went through some of the storylines getting ready for this upcoming year. Simple. Do you believe the crap I'm about to spout or not? That's where we're at. It is the old
believe it.
I don't believe it.
One of those two. Robert never gets this game right, but that's what we're going for here. All right, your first one. The total yard leader in 2023. Again, the top 3 last year were running backs. 9 of the top 12 were running backs. The total yard leader in 2023 will be one of the 3 franchise tagged running backs. So Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs. Believe it or not.
I am going to say believe it. And here's why. And I believe in the way this guy coaches. Yes, he did not show up to practice today. He has not signed his tenure deal, but that's Saquon Barkley. He makes that team what it is, and I think they have to have him there. I think they get a deal done before the July 17th date, but I can see Saquon being the leading rusher and rushing for 1,800 yards.
I'm actually going to say I don't believe this one, though. Josh Jacobs was your total yards leader last year. I think if Zeke does not re-sign with Dallas, which some people believe could happen, Tony Pollard being the lead back there, he is very dynamic. And yes, Barkley is very, very good as well. But to me, if I have to pick one player that I'm going to believe is going to be your total yard leader, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey in a full year with San Francisco. I just think he's too dynamic, and now put on a really good team there, getting hidden in a way with some of the other dynamic playmakers that they have there in San Francisco. I think McCaffrey's going to be fantastic. He finished 3rd in total yards last year, and that's half of the year in Carolina, half of the year it's San Francisco. So give me McCaffrey, but it would not surprise me if one of those three could do it. So it is possible, but I do not believe it.
So more plausible. We'll bring up the
Plausible. It's plausible, but not believable. How about that? All right. I
How about-
listed off some of the free agents that are currently still out there. There obviously are some that are over the age of 30 that I did not list. And there's some smaller named guys that I did not put on the list as well. So again, there is a reminder. I said Elliott, Cook, Fournette, Hunt, McKissick, and Robinson. However, this question can be with anyone that is not currently signed with the team. All right.
Okay.
Believe it or not, 4 current running back free agents will rush for 1,000 yards or more this upcoming season.
We're into the first week of OTAs, and those, I mean, we're going to start seeing a lot of these guys sign. I'm going to take the under, but I'm going to just take it slightly under. I think Dalvin Cook goes someplace. He gets signed. He's going to play. I think Zeke can get there, and if they can build the offense around him, like I said, he could be a great fit for Seattle. I think he's 1 or 2. And Kareem Hunt, I still high on that guy. I'm going to take the under, but slightly under, and say only 3, not 4.
I'm going to say I believe it, but I get it. Elliott, Cook, and Hunt were the 3 that really stood out to me. Then you start looking at some of the older backs out there. Could they possibly get going? I'm blanking on the name. Who is the old guy that was, or Mark Ingram? That was the name. I was going to think the guy that was with the Saints forever, with Kamara, and he has done a lot of really good stuff. Could he all of a sudden have a bit of resurgence where he's only rushing it 10 times a game, but is able to push through? Yeah, 1,000 yards is a lot. I think he's more of a goal line back going forward.
And that's that's kind of what he turned into in Baltimore towards the end of his tenure there.
So I will say I believe it, but 3 sounds more likely, but we'll see. How about let's go look at the rookies, because some of them got drafted a little high, and it's always interesting to see how they get placed around. But rookie Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons will finish in the top 5 in rushing yards this year.
I'm going to say no. I do not believe it. I think he could probably be top 10 or just right at 10, 11, 12. But Atlanta's got to get some offensive line to protect him. And they're in, and also with Ritter protected him in Atlanta. So I don't see them quite there yet. I think they need to get a little bit more help on the line before we see him crack the 1,000-yard. Or even the top 5.
I think he is. I think he's going to break 1,000. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic because he really doesn't have that second back. And I think they're really going to lean on him. He's definitely going over 1,000 all-purpose yards as far as receiving as well. But I think he's going to be a really special player, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch in Atlanta. He's going to be the focal point of that offense while they start to get the passing game going again. So I think he's going to be a really fun player to watch this year. Last one. Excuse me. Second to last one. Last one with the rookies. 2 other rookie running backs will rush over 1,000 yards this year. A couple of the names that got drafted early. Jahmyr Gibbs for Detroit. Is it Charbonnet? Zach Charbonnet for Seattle. I apologize if that's not how you say his name. Kendre Miller for New Orleans. Tyjae Spears from Tennessee. There's a few others that got drafted. I think 13 other running backs got drafted all throughout. 2 of those running backs go over 1,000 yards next year. Believe it or not.
Everybody was shocked with Gibbs. I think that might happen. He could easily be one of those guys. I could see him. But as far as some of the other names, and I believe that's pronounced Charbonneau. I could
Charbonneau.
I believe that is how that's pronounced. But Akane in Miami, I don't. Is that he could be that guy? He could. I think that he would lend a little bit. But I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. I think the only one that's really got a chance is probably Gibbs.
Yeah, I'm with you with Gibbs. I think he's going to be fantastic too. There were rumors that Detroit would have taken Gibbs first as the first running back if they weren't able to trade down. They were able to, and they got Gibbs at that spot. Can another running back come out and surprise? Absolutely. But I'm going to say no. I don't believe it. I think just Gibbs and Robinson go over the 1,000-yard mark. Final one. It was the top 3 this year, Jacobs, Henry, and McCaffrey, before Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill made the list. But in 2023, the top 5 in total yards will all be halfbacks, believe it or not.
I'm going to say this. If Jefferson has another year the way he played this last year, I'm going to say no, because I really think Justin Jefferson is a great addition. Now, does Tyreek Hill get a little bit better this year? Hopefully, if Tua is the main guy there. What about Devontae Adams? I mean, now being set in his thing, he could easily excel at that point. I'm going to say I doubt it. I'm going to say no. I think one of these receivers steps up big enough that's going to take over of the yards. I think also, you almost have to guarantee that Christian McCaffrey is in that in the top 5. With you saying, like you said a minute ago, with him being and we talked about it earlier, with him being a receiving back also, and that's a huge thing. Tony Pollard, I think, is going to climb and get a lot more yards this year. If this whole Zeke thing, they don't re-sign him, I think he becomes the workhorse guy, and he bounces up into the top 5. But I think Jefferson is just too much of a stud, and he's going to be in the top 5 there.
Yeah, I do think somebody like Jefferson's going to mess this up. It won't end up being the top 5. I do believe 9 of 12 again very possibly could make that happen, where we have 9 of the top 12. But top 5 is difficult with how good Jefferson is. Let's get into the scoreboard, Mr. Hagan, as I will pull it up. Braves and Tigers got postponed. We haven't had a ton of rainouts this year.
No.
We're going to get all messed up by the end of the year, as Denny Grubb had spoiled. The Orioles are all over Toronto, 11-2 in the bottom of the 7th. Rockies and Red Sox are all tied up at 4 in the bottom of the 7th. Yankees just got out of a jam. They lead 7-6 over the Mets. They're going to the top of the 7th right now. Brewers are over the Twins, 5-2, top of the 7th inning there. Giants over the Cardinals, what has happened with St. Louis? We'll talk about that here shortly. That's in the 5th. Rangers over the Angels, 3-1 in the 5th. Pirates were up 1-0 over the Cubs when I got that done, but I just got the update. Ian Happ with a 3-run shot. So the Cubs now with a 3-1 lead. This just always changes every 2 seconds. Reds over the Royals, 5-4 in the 5th. Houston with a 1-0 lead over the lonely Nationals, 1-0 in the 5th. And still to come, the Marlins and your Mariners, Phillies and D-backs, Rays and Athletics. Athletics having a reverse boycott today. We'll see how many fans show up there. It'll be pretty interesting. We'll talk about that. Guardians and Padres, and then later tonight, Sox and Dodgers.
So I want to ask you, have the Brewers figured out what it is to play offense now that they are licking their wounds from getting basically swept over by the Athletics this past weekend?
What has happened with the Athletics? They've been winning all of a sudden, and I don't get it. I don't understand what has happened. All of a sudden, they're almost not the worst team in the league. It is
crazy.
sad. All right, let's get into some MLB stuff. And before we get into the standings and we look at there, let's look at some big performances. Seattle finally was able to get Luis Arraez to slow down. He is back under the 400 mark, but still right up there, batting .391 on the season. We'll keep track of that. You could just give him the batting title now. It's just, can he stay up there over 400? And it shows you how tough it is. One bad game and not great weekend either. He was okay this weekend, but nothing fantastic. And just like that, you drop 10 points of batting average and you're back under 400. How about JT Realmuto hitting for the cycle against Arizona? Yet the Phillies don't win, and I've been meaning to look this up. My phone updates me on every score in Major League Baseball. I got an update that said the Phillies had a walk-off home run, and then a minute later, I got an update saying, no, really, the Diamondbacks won. Like, they took the home run off the board. I guess I missed it, and interesting. But thoughts on those two performances?
Well, that we'll talk about. Right, he has been lights out. Getting on base and getting out there. 30 RBIs right now. I want to say he's in the top 15 or 20 in RBIs in MLB. Easy. Could you throw his name right now? MVP. I don't know if I want to go that far, but they have been playing quite well. And he is part of that catalyst that has been keeping Miami in games. So unbelievable. JT had an interesting game with this one. This one is also where their manager got ejected after a few pitches going high and tight in. He ended up turning things up. Home run hit for the cycle. Unbelievable home run. Triple, got the two hard ones out of the way right away. 4-4 on the that day, 3 runs, 3 RBIs. He is just a young kid that I think the Phillies are going to lean on. And I like the way he plays.
Breaking news. I'm trying to find out who it was. Again, I have the Yankee game off to the side. A relief pitcher for the Mets just came into the game and got ejected. I'm going to believe for sticky stuff coming out of the bullpen. Again, it's such a hit or miss rule. I'm not going to say he's a big fat cheater or nothing. Who knows exactly what's going on? I don't have the audio up. But he came in to get ready to pitch the inning, and off he went.
It is the Subway Series, so I mean it's important. It's one of the big rivalries. So
yeah, it's a fun rivalry. I don't know if Denny is stuck around after we didn't talk about his sport at the beginning. But Baltimore Orioles lose Ryan Mountcastle to the 10-day IL with vertigo. He has been okay this year. He's had some pop, but batting 162, which has been rough. That's the scary thing. Yes, Gunnar Henderson did. I was just about to bring up his name too, Denny. But that's the thing about Baltimore is they are second in the division, one of the better teams in the league. Yet there's some bats on that team that have really struggled. Mountcastle's not been great. Gunnar Henderson has the grand slam today, but you look at his numbers, and you're waiting for him to finally break out. So, I mean, that is an interesting team going forward.
Yeah, they've been out there and they're still in there. And yes, Eric, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But it's just crazy to think. And we'll talk about it here at the end. But where some of these teams have progressed over the last couple of years, and Denny kept telling us, you got to watch for Henderson. You got to watch, for these guys and what they are doing. These young kids have got some pop, and it kind of boils down to, and I sent this, and we didn't put it in our stats or anything like that, but this year's the first year that Division I baseball in college had over 19,000 home runs, and it's still not over yet. I mean, these kids that are coming up, they're playing for the pop, they're playing to hit the ball, but they're working out.
They're also playing with metal bats.
Yes. So, but it's just going to be the evolution of these players anymore is just changing and changing. And I think that we're going to see more things like this.
It was Drew Smith who got ejected for the Mets, and it was for a substance check when he first entered the game. He was dumbfounded that he got ejected. It happens every time somebody gets ejected for that they don't believe it. Again, I'll wait to see. And there you go. Another update for you. We did not do that on our scoreboard update because I don't have a graphic for it yet. Golden Knights with a 4-1. Is it 4-1 leader? They outscore them. Yeah, 4-1 in the second.
4-1. They just went back to back within about a minute and a half scoring.
There you go. Ryan Mountcastle was not the only injury that happened. I sent this to basically everybody that's watching the show at the moment, and to you, Robert. But poor John Sterling, the radio announcer for the New York Yankees, got hit in the head while calling the game and continued to call the game and finish it up. It's been absolutely fantastic. I'm going to play the audio. I'm not going to play the video, though the video is great too. I just don't want to get completely in trouble on YouTube, but we'll play the audio here. Robert, please let me know if you can hear it. But this is what happened. Basically, the final 2 pitches of the Yankee game on Saturday.
Now the 3-2 swung on, a pop foul back here. Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far. So once again, it'll be a 3-2. And Holmes ready to deal. A ground ball to third. Donaldson squares, throws to first in time. Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win. You know, that foul ball actually hit me. It kind of glanced off my forehead. So I took one for the team.
Okay, John. My star of the game is Kyle Higashioka, who wants to know if you're all right. Are you okay, John?
Yes,
Okay, yes.
I am okay. Just a glancing blow.
Just a glancing blow.
It's so good. It's absolutely so good. Credit to John Sterling for battling through it. It bounced off of his shelf and hit him and bounced off his head, and he just continued to do it. I love how he said "ow" 3 times. Never cussed. Never got ready to cuss. Just was the most professional. John Sterling sometimes can drive me nuts listening to the radio broadcast. He's done it for years. He has some fantastic calls and sometimes some very incorrect calls. But that was a really crazy moment, and I just had to share it here.
You can tell that he is an Eastern-born and Eastern-bred man, as you talked about the ball going off his forehead. His forehead. But yeah, it was. You sent that to me. I'm like, what? Why are you sending me a Yankee clip? And then to see the ball ricochet off his head, it's
quite a moment. That's just that's all there is to it. All right, let's talk about those Oakland Athletics 6-game winning streak, which doubles their win total. It feels like they still have the worst record in the league. But get a couple of wins against Pittsburgh. As you said, they swept Milwaukee, and they figured out something that the Yankees can't do, and that's beating Tampa Bay yesterday. Is Oakland on a World Series turnaround? Believe it or not.
I don't think they're on a World Series.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either, but you know, if you're a fan like Mike Tacko is of Oakland, you know, he's got to believe in some way. But it's just crazy to see how Milwaukee just kind of folded and let Oakland in on the road, nonetheless.
No,
Oakland
they didn't fold. Oakland turned around. And you know what Oakland's saying right now?
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
It's
Oakland, well, Vegas or wherever their team's going to end up.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see, but can they prove it again at home tonight against Tampa Bay?
So it'll be very interesting. Again, they're doing the reverse boycott where the fans are trying to pack the stadium to show that, hey, we would show up if this team was run correctly by the owner. I think people in Oakland have just went, you know what, screw it. We're losing our team. So be it. They just want the owner gone when he goes to Vegas because he's going to end up making a buttload of money, and they believe that he is the biggest problem with their team. It is funny that it is Oakland versus Tampa Bay, 2 teams that have nobody ever show up to their game. So neither of them are going to understand what's going to happen when 25,000 people are there.
Yeah, and what's weird about this, and you said John Fisher's name, he's a billionaire, got plenty of money. This isn't anything about it. It's about getting people in the stadium. They got to get some players in there too. And the big thing that I believe it was Denny that posted on his Facebook page. Does Oakland move off of Seth Brown, who has been the consistent one since he's back and forth? Does that happen? Is that going to kill any more chances of this ball club doing it? If it is John Fisher running it still, Yeah, I think this team is up and gone pretty darn quick, and he doesn't want to pay for these players to come in. He wants to make money. That's his main thing. He doesn't want to win a championship.
Well, I mean, obviously he's not out there trying to win championships, but even if they do move on from Seth Brown, he's their best player, but he's not going to be around by the time they finally are able to turn things around. So again, if you can get a decent prospect for Brown, who could be a good left-handed utility player for a playoff team, I think you go for it. And I think Seth Brown would absolutely jump at the opportunity to play for a team that has a chance. I just turned on the Oakland game. There's still a lot of empty seats. I would like to see a full shot of it, but there's definitely a lot more people there than normal. We'll see where that goes. Obviously, it looks like the Nevada Senate passed the $380 million bill to build the stadium there in Las Vegas. One big step towards moving the athletics there. I think it's inevitable that is going to happen. But in what year will the A's finally move to Vegas? Because it's going to take several years to build a stadium, but do they play at like a minor league park or like UNLV or something to just get themselves out of Oakland so they're not having that situation that the Raiders did, where the Raiders played one more year in Oakland in front of a fan base that just knew they were leaving, and it wasn't pretty at times over there.
And they've been trying to do this for 20 plus years. I mean, the last 10, they've been trying to get a new stadium built in Oakland. And then that's the big thing that they have been talking about. It's been over 20 years from them trying to move different places. They were trying to move to Fremont, California. They were also trying to move to, I want to say Santa Barbara, I think was a location at one point. So this has been going on a long time. I think it's
because
finally
that stadium is the bane of any sport arena in the world. It's between that and Tropicana Field, I think, is the two worst Major League Baseball stadiums. By the way, I would probably say just quick looks that Oakland Coliseum is a third full. Obviously, they don't have the upper deck there open, but it's a decent crowd there for Oakland, and about half of the fans have the Cell shirt that they were handing out before the game.
So we didn't bring it up a few minutes ago, and you're going to have to, and I don't remember 100%, and I'm glad Eric is here because he can answer this. I saw something, and it was kind of caught my eye for a second, and then I got going doing something else. Jacksonville, I want to say Jacksonville, did they not release a new look, or was it for a new stadium down there? And
they're gonna renovate.
It kind of got the idea of looking like SoFi, another SoFi looking. But they're talking about playing during those renovations, get this, at the Daytona Speedway.
I think it'd be awesome. I think they should just do that anyways. Not every game, but one game a year at Daytona. I think it'd be cool. What the place that needs to host a football game is Bristol. I think it's perfectly sized. Obviously, I mean, they already put dirt around the track, so you could put dirt in the infield. I think it would work out great.
Yeah, I saw the renderings, and like that Eric was talking about. It has the look of SoFi with the wrapped vision, the TV vision around the edges. But yeah, I saw the idea of them going to play in Daytona. Crazy.
Yeah, I think it'd be great, especially down there. Just trying to find cool places to play. I think it would be a lot of fun. I think the Tampa Bay Rays should do that. Just play at random places, and I mean, nobody comes out to their games anyway, so why not move around? Let's have one of these major league teams just be a travel ball team, where they just play at all these different places that would love an MLB team. It's like, all right, we're going to use Tampa Bay as the tester. We'll move them around, and they will play in all these different places. We'll put them in Montreal for a week, and then Vancouver and Portland and Utah, and we'll just test things out for a week and see where the best place is, because it's not going to be Tampa Bay. That's for sure. Let's get into it. We are past Memorial Day, so as we've always been saying, that's when standings start to matter a little bit more. You can start looking at the standings, and if you do that, so here in the American League, it's becoming very split. I mean, obviously, it helps that Kansas City and Oakland are so far gone, but you don't really believe much in the White Sox or Detroit right now. But the AL Central is so bad that they can definitely get in it. Cleveland and Seattle both under 500 right now, as is Boston, but they're within 6 games of the wild card. So a lot of teams still in it, but really you got to think that we're starting to get closer and closer to really finding those 8, maybe 9 teams that realistically have a chance to make the postseason this year, right?
Yeah, and I was looking at that earlier, the standings. Did you look at even? I think you don't want to count out Cleveland if things ended right now. Anything is going to happen, and like Denny said, yeah, the Twins. That's kind of.
By the way, can we just once again look at Oakland's record and realize they're on a 6-game winning streak at 18-50 every time?
What was our over under of how many wins we'd have to go back and look at what we were saying.
Remember. Bad.
Yeah.
It's the 6-game winning streak has definitely hurt whatever those chances were, but
they're still too far out. But you look there, even through the top 11, and you could maybe say 12 right now. There's
12 and 13 with Chicago and Detroit. They're 4.5 and 5 games out of the Central. Denny, I'm with Denny. I think Minnesota is a better team than their record at 33 and 33. And I do think they're the best team in that division right now. But you don't have much of a lead. Tampa Bay still has a 5-game lead over Baltimore. The fact that Toronto is 7 games over 500 and 10 games behind the Rays still blows my mind. Just shows you how good Tampa Bay has been. But just looking at these standings here, give me one team that is currently in and one team that is currently out and flip them for me.
Wow. That's currently in, currently out.
And you don't be afraid to say Oakland, you chicken.
No, I'm not afraid to say Oakland, but the way I watched, and I'm gonna probably regret saying this, but the way I watched LA play against Seattle and what the Angels and what they were capable of maybe doing, if Ohtani can stay hot, if they can keep Trout off the injured, as I think that could easily be that way. I think they can bounce up in. Now, with that being said, I think it could be either Houston out or it could be the Yankees out, depending on how Tampa Bay keeps playing, how Baltimore keeps playing. Right now, you're playing without Judge and Stanton.
The offense is so bad without him.
And
the fact that they've scored 7 runs today is blowing my mind today.
And Stanton got hit today, but I think he stayed in the ball game after getting hit. But I think that's the big one for you is the injury bug and how Severino started that ball game. Like I told you, I flipped it off and flipped it over to the hockey game because the Mets were up 4-1. So I think it's the Angels in and either Houston or Yankees out.
I'm with you where it'll be either the Yankees or Houston out. I think Texas is legit in the AL West. I don't think they're going to fall out. They may not win their division, but I think they will make the playoffs. They are a really good team, even with DeGrom being out for the year. I think they'll make another move. Rangers have shown they're not afraid to spend money. I think Houston is finally starting to hit that age where a lot of the players that they got when they retooled years ago were starting to age out. But they continue to be a very good team. And you said it, the Yankees are all about injuries. They continue to be the most injured team in the league. And just when they start to get healthy, Judge injures his toe and he's out. Bader has been a complete game changer for them. He's out. The pitching staff is a mess. Severino does not look good. And they just do not have the depth right now. So I am worried that the Yankees could fall out. And while, yes, the Angels look like that team that would not shock anybody. I think Toronto is another team that they have some offensive players that have not played well, and they can turn things around and be even better. And you know what? You didn't say it, but I'm going to say it. There was a team last year that was even in a worse spot than they are this year and came back and made the playoffs. And that's the Seattle Mariners. They continue to have players that Julio Rodriguez is not playing well. And that team right now is one game under 500. They have a really good pitching staff. So I'm with you. It's either Houston or the Yankees out, and it's either Toronto or Seattle in. If I have to pick one, I'll say Houston for Toronto. But it'll be interesting. But I think your division winners are set. It's Tampa Bay, Texas, and Minnesota. And then right now, the way Baltimore's playing, I think they are the wild card that gets home field advantage in their wild card game. And then it's between a few teams else that'll be switching out. American League, I think we're only between maybe 10 teams. The National League, St. Louis has the worst record in the National League. I'm pretty sure you and I both, I'm scrolling down right now, I believe both of us had them in the playoffs. Yes, we both had them winning the division even. Oh, and you had them as your World Series winner. Explain the Cardinals and explain how they can get back into it.
I have not a clue, but I'm gonna have you look at that number right there. It still says 7.5.
Yeah,
that's
and only 8.5 out of the division.
8.5 out of the division, 7.5 out of wild card. This is so stack any team in there, and they're gonna make it in there. So, with that being said, I think any of these teams can move up. I think. For me, if you look into those whole 7, 8, 9 again, are you impressed with Cincinnati and what Cincinnati has been doing lately?
Yeah.
And could they make a push to get up there? They're 3.5 back out of Pittsburgh. I think the team that shocks me that's in this team, in this leadership right now, is Pittsburgh. I who would have figured Pittsburgh would have taken that step? Yes, they're only 4 games over 500, but they're leading the Central in a division that has been all about Milwaukee and St. Louis for years. Nolan Arenado, and they've got to find some offense around this guy, and I think that's the biggest thing for St. Louis.
You're talking about Pittsburgh being a surprise. How about Arizona? Arizona to me is an absolute surprise. You and I both had them finishing 4th in their division. Can they keep it up? Zach Gallen has kind of come back down to earth a little bit, but the team continues to win. Them having a 4-game lead over the Dodgers is impressive. The fact the Padres, who I had winning the World Series, is still 3 games under 500 is shocking to me. How many playoff teams did we have in the National League that are currently not in the playoffs right now? Padres, Mets, we both had making the playoffs, I believe. Cardinals, we both had in. I know you had the Phillies in as well. It's a mess in the National League, and I think it is going to be so much fun to see where it ends out. Looking at our preseason predictions, I had the Mets, Cardinals, and Padres winning their divisions. None of them are in the playoffs right now. And I had Atlanta, Milwaukee, and the Dodgers as my wild cards. They are all currently in. So I'm 3 of 6 currently. You had the Mets, Cardinals, and Dodgers winning your division. So you have the Dodgers in. That's great. You had the Brewers, Padres, and Phillies. It is your wild card team. So you were also 3 of 6. That's not good. That's not good. But it shows that this whole thing could get flipped. We're not even halfway through. This is why I tell people don't even look at the standings until Memorial Day, because so much gets flip-floppy. And now that we still have about 100 games to go in the year, but the National League is fun, and it's going to be really fun all the way through.
It's going to boil down to whether or not who stays healthy in these ball clubs. And I think that's the biggest thing. And the youth, and we're seeing the youth, and you look at the playoff race right now, Arizona, very young. some of these other ones, Pittsburgh, very young in age, and they're coming up and they're starting to play quite well. And I think that's just the great things coming out of NCAA, NAIA that's making some of these ball clubs even better. And
One negative to what we're seeing in the National League, and it's something that we always look forward to next month. I think this is going to be the most boring trade deadline we've seen in decades because no one's out of it. It's going to be everybody asking Kansas City and Oakland about some of their players because who else is going to be a seller right now? I mean, things can change in a month. Maybe the Cardinals fall out even more, and then they start selling off some of their older players. Maybe, but you got to think right now, if you're the Cardinals, that you feel like you can get back into this, if you can have a good month or two, and all of a sudden you have a chance not only to make the playoffs in your division, but there's not a single team in the National League that is out of it right now. So I think the trade deadline could be a bit weak. That's all I will say there. All right, let's All-Star voting is in. I've already told you I don't care. But the one thing I have noticed, I don't know if it's changed since the last time I saw, 0 Tampa Bay Rays are leading any of their votes right now. Best team in baseball, nobody gets in. But that also just kind of shows you that it's more of a team-based aspect. Randy Arozarena right now 4th in outfield is the closest they have to getting a starter in.
And I'm like you. I don't like the way they do this. You can vote up to 10 days, and then you've got so many days for the window, and then you cut down. We got to come up with a new way to do the All-Star game. If it's going to matter,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
That's
anymore.
the thing.
It used to
If
matter.
there's
Now
one-
it doesn't matter.
So then let's just leave it up to the players and let the players vote themselves in or whoever in.
Yeah. It's now that it doesn't matter. In the end, I don't care how they vote or how they do it, as long as it's an exhibition game and let them have fun with it. All right, let's get into it. Our MLB players of the week. I will go ahead and start with my standout batter. And how about Jose Ramirez? He's really struggled this year. But the third baseman for the Guardians, 10 of 18 in the last week, a .556 batting average, 4 home runs, 8 RBI, 7 runs. And he only struck out twice last week to his 3 walks. So Jose Ramirez is my batter of the week.
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to go with guy from the team you were talking about a few minutes ago from Arizona. I'm going to go with Corbin Carroll. 5 games in. He batted .500, 11 of 22, 9 runs, 3 home runs, triple, 2 doubles, and just 2 strikeouts. But his OPS, 1.6, and that's pretty good. And from a team like we talked, it just was not. It's one of those shocking teams right now. So,
all right, standout pitcher. I'm going to go with the closer. Again, I couldn't really find a ton of starters that were absolutely fantastic, and you took the main one. Jordan Romano, relief pitcher for the Blue Jays, 3 saves on his opportunities, gave up 1 hit, 1 walk in his 3 innings. Ohtani was fantastic at the plate, on the mound. I argued for Aaron Judge being the MVP last year. We still have 100 games to go, but there's zero argument from me here. Ohtani right now is by far and away the American League MVP. Who's your pitcher of the week?
I'm going to take Blake Snell from San Diego. 2 games in, getting 1 win out of him, but only gave up 5 hits, 1 earned run, walked 3, but he struck out 20 batters in this thing, and crazy whip. So that's where I'm going to go with pitcher this week. That was the only one that stood out to me. I actually looked closer. I actually looked long relievers too.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton. All right, let's get into our MLB power rankings. And usually one of us goes and then the other one goes. We're going to alternate this week. We'll give our 1s, then our 2s, just to change things up, right? How about Robert? Who's your top team?
It's still Tampa Bay right now, especially what they're proving out on the field. It has been so dominant of a team out there, and for them to lose last night was a bit of a shock.
Yes. I also kept Tampa Bay up there. I did say that I was.
You might want to put your graphic up.
What? Did I not put it up?
Nope.
Well, why don't you put it up? You have the same buttons as me.
Oh, I guess I did. I should have.
Jeez. But yeah, I'm also going with Tampa Bay. I did threaten to take them out of my top spot. They've won 8 of their last 10. However, that one of those 2 losses was against Oakland. So we will see what happens. If they lose the series to Oakland, I'm telling you right now, I'm dropping them. I don't care if they sweep their weekend series. I will drop Tampa Bay. Who do you got it to?
I'm going to take the Texas Rangers. Just kind of those guys, they didn't blow me away at the very beginning. I didn't know what to think about them, but from watching how they played against the Mariners the last little bit, yeah, they're on a 2-game skid right now, but 6-4 over the last 10.
Danny, I'm with you. Give me Texas. They are the big surprise in the AL West. They continue to play well, even with DeGrom being out for the year. 41-24, 17 games over 500. Not the best run differential. Or I'm looking at the wrong team. There you go. How about 406 runs? 146 run differential. The best in the league. I'm looking at the wrong team. I'm losing my mind because Denny's making me laugh over here. So that is why the Rangers are second. How about you got for third?
Well, listen, I'm going to say it. Who's your daddy? All right, Denny, you're my daddy. I'm going to put him 3.
Oh, God, don't say that. That's inappropriate.
Baltimore has just kept going, and they have been unbelievable. Henderson, what a bat in this lineup. Another big hit there tonight. Baltimore is, yes, a few games still out from finding Tampa Bay, but I think they can make a I think they can make a push there. Yes, it is a family show. It is.
I cannot believe just the utter sucking up to Denny before we get into our sports-related draft that you are doing here by putting Baltimore at 3. I don't understand why you would do that. So go ahead
because
and give me
I had Baltimore at number 3 last week too.
Go ahead and give me your 4th team.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Yep.
Because I didn't believe.
Hey, it's a
in this
visual
team.
show. He can see who I picked at 3. I don't need to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I hate that I did it. I hate that I put Baltimore at 3. Okay.
Cash in the mail. I'm hoping so, because here in the sports related draft, I'm hoping on your vote. But
pandering.
You know what's funny about that is I actually had to look up that word today to make sure I was reading into your message from me earlier. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Braves. It was hard for me to believe that these guys were going to be in it this year, and they're proving me wrong, and they keep proving me wrong with what they're doing. They've got a 3.5 game lead in the NL East, so unbelievable. I have to say it. 7-3 over the last 10, so Atlanta is my number 4.
I believed in Atlanta the whole year. All right, who's your number 5?
I'm going to go with Arizona. That shocking team. I ended up taking Carroll, the left fielder there, for my player of the week. I think he just keeps on going. Right now, huge win streak. They're on 6-game win streak, 8-10 over the last 10 games, and they are just scoring runs. And I'm going to take the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, me too. Complete shock. Absolute shock what Arizona is doing. The other teams that were in the mix for the top 5, I think, have struggled a bit. Yankees, Astros, Dodgers are all kind of falling off the cliff a little. So, yeah, Arizona is playing the best out of that group. Angels are trying to get up there. So are the Blue Jays. I just don't think they're quite up there yet. The fact that Miami is 7 games over 500 with a negative run differential makes it impossible to put them in the top 5. So while I wanted to pick at least one spot different than you in the top 5, I couldn't. So we match this week in our top 5.
Crazy.
Yeah, the Braves lost to the Tigers too, so much that everyone in Atlanta is crying, and it rained out the game, even though the game's in Detroit. But the joke still stands. NCAA College Baseball World Series starts on Friday. Oral Roberts, TCU, Virginia, and Florida in one bracket. Stanford, Wake Forest, Tennessee, and LSU. In the other bracket, who do you got in the final, sir?
Listen, I have to talk about this really quick, and I was so sad to see this happen. And Stanford got in kind of on a weird play in the outfield against Texas last night. Did you see the outfielder lose the ball in the twilights? Oh, it is sad. The ball drops in, and Stanford's able to come around, score, and go ahead and click their ticket into the World Series. So
I watched some of that game. I didn't get to watch the end of it. So sad for that to be the ending.
There you go. No. Yeah, and Eric says it. Yeah, Texas did all that work to come out and end up losing that one on a heartbreaker. Yep, Danny, I'm gonna agree with you. I think Wake Forest is the team to beat in this one. So they will play Stanford on Saturday. That is the morning game. So I'm gonna take Wake Forest.
And against who?
I think Wake Forest will end up playing probably, I'm thinking Florida. I think Florida comes out of bracket 1.
Yeah, I think Wake Forest is the front runner, and watching a couple of their games, they look absolutely fantastic. But we see it in the NAIA World Series all the time. Something crazy can happen. Give me LSU out of bracket 2. And as much as I want to pick Oral Roberts, because that's just a cool story, and they kind of come out of nowhere here. Luis Trevino is getting score updates on Sunday Night Baseball, the catcher for the Yankees who went to Oral Roberts. It's cool. I will also go with Florida. So LSU Florida will be my championship, just to be different. Wake Forest, I do think, is the best team in that group. Speaking of best teams, Holy Oklahoma. They have now won 53 straight games. They won the national championship for the 3rd straight year, 6 of the last 10. And I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon and involve the other talking heads that are out there in actual media. Oklahoma is a softball school, not a football school.
It's sure looking that way. Is how things have turned. These girls are unbelievable. The coach and staff and what they are doing with these young ladies, unbelievable. Watching their bats, watching how they approach the game, it's just nuts.
61-1.
Yeah.
It's a sick number. Yeah. And they just dominated that championship. I got to watch some of that against Florida State. Sooners were great. NBA is done. The Denver Nuggets are your NBA champions. They take out the Miami Heat 4-1. First time, as Robert said, which gave me an old trivia question. Robert used to do this to me, make me look stupid to end shows. I got one for him. And Harry, Eric, Danny, please play along. Let's have some fun. Denver. That is an old reference to the kickoff. That caught me off guard. You son of a gun. Just, that's a great reference. If nobody gets that reference, I'm sorry. That got me. Absolutely popped me. You popped me. That's just what happened.
I'm just going to go back up to the family show.
Yes, that fits. All right. There are 10 current franchises now that Denver has won the NBA championship. 10 current franchises that have never won an NBA championship. How many of them can you name before you name one that has a championship? We won't go through all 10. We still have a lot of show to go.
Boy, here we go. So I'm going to say Charlotte.
Yep. They are one of 5 that have yet to even reach the championship series.
Washington Wizards. No, well, wait. Washington, but did the Bullets have one?
Yeah.
Did the Washington Bullets have it? So I can't say the Wizards then.
Yeah, because they're the Bullets.
So they're the Bullets. So we don't want to say that one. Let's see.
Pacers and Magic are also correct.
Yeah,
Pacers have never, or Pacers are 0-1 in the finals. Magic are 0-2. Jazz are 0-2. Oh, I hit the wrong one. 0-2 for the Jazz. Clippers, that's another good one. You're getting all this help, so you need to start talking. Clippers have yet to make one. There's
Yeah.
3 more that have never made one.
Memphis.
Memphis has never reached one. That is correct. So there's 2 more that have never reached one. The other ones that have reached one and never won were the Brooklyn Nets
Any New Orleans team. I like that.
and the Phoenix Suns. And yes, the New Orleans Pelicans are one of those teams. The Grizzlies are up there. Did I miss them earlier? Yep, Grizzlies are there.
I think
Or
we
you said it. That's right. There's one more team. One more team. Kings have won one. They won one back in 1951. I mean, Robert was alive for that time, but
no, I was
most of
not,
us
no,
were
no.
not. There's one other team that is yet to ever reach.
Hmm.
There's just one.
Atlanta Hawks.
I don't think anybody said the Suns, but
I'm going to say the
Hawks.
I'm going to say the Atlanta Hawks.
The Atlanta Hawks have won one. They've reached 4. They won back in 1958, and yes, there it is. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the other one that have yet to ever reach the NBA Finals. However, we've gotten a couple in the last few years. Toronto got their first one in 2019. Denver just did it this year, so it's getting there. Cleveland won their first title 2016, so we'll see. And we'll see how things go. And again, Vegas with a 6-1 lead over Florida. So Vegas looks like they are going to win.
So
the
they'll
Stanley
be the
Cup championship.
so they will be the fastest new team, expanded team to ever win a championship, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sure Eric will know that.
In any sport, if I'm not
Pretty good.
mistaken. This is their third year in?
How long did it take for the then Florida Marlins to win it? When did they start? Because they won it in 97. Did they start? I want to say they started in 95, right? Because they started before the lockout.
Yeah, so they might be, yeah. So maybe the Marlins came in earlier.
Somebody will let us know. But let's get into it. Our sports related draft. By the way, that was a great discussion and a lot of fun, which we needed because I know the lockout was 94. I'm trying to think when the Marlins and the Rockies got going. Was that 95? Did they start right after the lockout or was it before? Did they start in
1993? Founded.
Okay, so they started just before the lockout. Okay, that makes sense. I was going to be weird to have a lockout and then have 2 expansion teams, but yeah, 93. Okay, so yeah, it was 4 years for them. So yeah, Vegas could still have that record. All right, sports related draft. We have a few people who have joined the show that were not here at the beginning. So Robert, you are on a 2-week winning streak, sir.
It's going to be 3. I'm writing it down right now. I
forgot to write the last one down. What was last week's? We've deleted it. What was last week's sports-related draft that you won? The consecutive numbers thing.
Consecutive numbers. Yep, consecutive numbers. All right, so we've been doing all kinds of different things, and we were talking about
for 4 years.
Yep, and Arraez with him chasing 400. One of those records that come up. I thought, let's just look and see what is the greatest or what is the best all-time record in sports of any sport. Could be golf, could be any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I picked the topic. So, Randy, you get to go first. And who did you go with?
As always, it seems is the case. When we are able to pick all sports and records are involved, we go right to baseball because it's been around the longest. And some of the numbers that were put together early on in baseball are just flabbergasting to me. And that is where I went with my very first pick. Again, somebody that Robert watched as a young man growing up, Cy Young. And you can pick several from Cy Young, but I went with his 511 wins. That is 94 more than any other player in the history of baseball. There are great pitchers that do not even get to 94 career wins. And that is the gap that Cy Young has over Walter Johnson on that list, which is why I think it is the most impressive all-time record, and why, to answer your question earlier, this is a record that will never, ever, ever, ever get touched. The closest in my lifetime to get there was Greg Maddux with 355. And that's still 155 away from what Cy Young was able to do.
Well, and Cy Young, not to give you a little extra, but I'm going to give you a little extra prop. But Cy Young was one of those guys too that just kept on going. I thought about taking one of his other records, and that
his complete game record was insane too.
749 complete games. The active one right now, the active one is Adam Wainwright, and he's getting ready to retire. So I don't think he's ever going to get it. And he had 749 complete games. Dude was a workhorse. He is the name workhorse. But I'm going to go, my first pick, I'm going to go with the Iron Man. And that record has to be there. It will be, I think, there for the rest of time. And I'm going to take Cal Ripken's 2,632 consecutive games played. I mean, there's
hold on real quick. I'm more confused by Harry. Why is it not impressive when they were playing even less games and he got all of the win? Anyways, but yes, Cal Ripken, go ahead.
Yeah, so Cal Ripken, now he's got me. You can't find a guy that's going to play actively so many days because they give you a break. And so I'm taking Cal Ripken. You know,
it's fair.
The most active guy right now is right at, I believe it's Matt Olson with 296 consecutive starts. And
he was pitching. Oh, I got you. They were pitching that many. Yeah, because they were just built different back then.
All right, so that was round one. Your second round pick there, sir.
Again, it just starts on your Cal Ripken thing. It's 500 more than Lou Gehrig, which everyone thought was going to be an untouchable record in itself, and another one of those records that will never be broken just because the game is played different. Just with the same with Cy Young, but it's a super impressive record. And mine is that I went with is interesting just for the fact that it's not because the game is played differently that this record still stands. It's just that it's insane that he did it. And that's Joe DiMaggio and his 56 game hitting streak. It's 11 more than anyone else has ever done. And we start looking at players that get to 20 and start freaking out about their hit streak. It's such an impressive streak that Major League Baseball has come out with a game that I play that you can pick one or two batters every single day to try to get a 56 game hitting streak. And if you can get there, you win $5.6 million. Yet nobody in the 20 some years that they have done this game has ever got there. And that's picking any player that you want every single day. You can pick two if you want, you can double down, but it's incredible. Yeah, beat the streak. There's a whole app to it now. They have a bunch of weird side games that you could play too if you get interested. There's like that Wordle game that came out. You could do it with baseball players. It's really, really interesting if you so choose. But yeah, beat the streak is impossible. It's impossible to do. My greatest streak, and I've been playing this game for a decade, is 14. It's just impossible to do. So that is my second pick.
Yeah, it's a good one. But, I've beaten Joe DiMaggio's streak on MLB The Show. So, but that's with my created player and all that.
And probably playing on easy.
No. I'm going to change sports just because we went baseball. I'm going to go with the GOAT. Yeah, you have to call it. He is the greatest receiver to ever play the game. He is going to be that guy. He has over 5,000 more yards, and I'm going to go with Jerry Rice. 22,000 yards. What do you mean? Shut up, Hagen. What? Come on now. Listen, Jerry Rice, what he was doing in the 80s with Joe Montana, then turns to do it with Steve Young, continues his career. You will never see a guy get that close. The closest one right now is Julio Jones that is in there. and he's at 13,000 yards. Oh, what you want to play some? I think Harry wants to play some baseball. We'll have to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, this guy, the yardage of 22,000, and like we were talking earlier, I don't think anybody, the way that the game is designed anymore, we will ever see anybody get close. Larry Fitzgerald is second with 17,000, and and Jerry's got 22, almost 23,000. So hands down, probably one of the hardest records that'll ever be broken.
It's a longevity thing. It's a health thing, and it's just being a dominant player. And that was Jerry Rice. I think if Larry Fitzgerald could have continued for a couple of years, he would have gotten really close.
I think if Larry Fitzgerald was on a different team other than Arizona during his prime, I think it'd be totally different.
That is also true. He other than his years with Kurt Warner, I mean, the rest of his time with Arizona was with some rough wide receivers, and I think he would have gotten close. Can somebody else get there? I mean, if Justin Jefferson can stay healthy for another 15 years, he could be really interesting. I haven't looked at what his averages are, but he has been phenomenal with Minnesota. And again, that's asking a lot for 15 years like he has earlier on in the year. So again, it's a very, very good record. For me, I'm going to go back to hockey, and this cost me last week, and I get it. I went to hockey twice. But Wayne Gretzky and his 2,857 points scored is just insane. The fact that in second place is Jaromir Jagr, who played for 400 years. If you look at Jaromir Jagr's record, again, I talked about Mario Lemieux last year. Jagr played with him in the early 90s and still played, I feel like 3 or 4 years ago. The man just refused to retire, and he played for basically every team. And he still plays. He still plays. And he's still 900 some away. Just what Wayne Gretzky did completely changed the sport of hockey. And it's never going to be touched. It's not. Right now, Ovechkin is the closest at 1,400, and he's getting closer to the end of his career. Same with Crosby at 1,409. He's not a spring chicken anymore. Oh, he plays overseas. Okay. But still, how old is Jaromir Jagr? I need to look this up. Jagr is 51 years old, and he's still playing professional hockey. That's awesome. Good for him. Oh, there you go. Even better. Gretzky has more assists than Jagr has points. It's just what Gretzky did was insane. All right, your last one.
All right, I'm gonna stay with football, and it's kind of in that same realm. We started the show off, and we talked about the underrated of running backs, and I don't think this record, any of mine that I have picked, will ever be broken. And that's going to be Emmitt Smith's rushing yardage and what he did in Dallas, over 18,000 yards in 25 years from 1990 to 2004. Right now, there isn't even a player in the top 40 that is even anywhere close to being on that record. I mean, that means you've got to stay healthy and productive and hand the ball off and be that workhorse like Smith was for a long time. The closest person right now is one of the guys we brought up earlier, and that's Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry only has 8,300 yards. 8,300 yards. We're talking 10,000 more yards. There's no way
he won't for sure. And so, yes, with the way sport or the NFL has changed, it's going to be a lot more difficult to break this record. Though I think this is the most obtainable out of the 6 that we have done. Obviously, it would take a fantastic career to do so, but you have to remember Frank Gore was 2,000 yards away from catching Emmitt Smith, and he played for a very long time. And I bet if he wanted to be like Jaromir Jagr and just, all right, throw me out there a couple times a game and continue to add to his total, he could. He's not going to get up to Emmitt Smith, but players recently have gotten up there. Adrian Peterson got near 1,500. He had a ton of injuries, and that again shows why the record's so great, is because you have to stay healthy. and continue to play. And while there's nobody up there close right now, I do think if one sport were to change back to a running style, players could break that one. I don't think they're going to break any of the other 5 that we've talked about, but out of the 6, I think this is the most obtainable one.
Fair enough. I still look at that. It might be, tough. You look at a couple of the others behind it. Zeke is a little bit closer. Mark Ingram, we know, is on his last leg, but could a Nick Chubb or could a Melvin Gordon stay healthy enough to get there? Dalvin Cook right now is sitting 99th at 6,000 yards. I mean, so that's still another 12,000 yards for a guy that's just under 30.
So Harry does ask who decides the winner. You guys do. Whoever is live in the chat for the sports-related draft, you all get a vote. We used to do this. We would find one person, but then there were days there just nobody would watch us, and so we're just anybody out there. Cast your vote.
Harry, Harry, I am going for a 3-peat. I'm going for a 3-peat here. That would be my longest winning streak in this, but
we don't want that.
Looks like Harry's going your way.
There you go. I got one vote. Again, if you are needing a recap, I took Cy Young's 511 wins, Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak, and Wayne Gretzky's 2,857 points. Robert went Cal Ripken's 2,632 consecutive games played, Jerry Rice's 22,895 receiving yards, and Emmitt Smith's 18,355 rushing yards. Denny even went with me, and you went with Cal Ripken.
That's crazy. That's
2-0 to me. And there it is, 3-0. We'll just lock it in now. The title is too far away, or I'd go get it. I am back on top, sir. I want you to do.
I am a sorcerer. Yes,
you are a sorcerer. I am too, because I'm back-to-back days, and I am. I want you to do 2 things. 2 things.
Acknowledge me.
We're not talking a bloodline tonight.
And why did I win?
I'm better than you, and you know it.
I got the WWE and I got AEW, and it's everything even here on the R&R Sports Report. We'll do a quick scoreboard update. I did not have time to update everything on the deal, but congratulations to Denny's Baltimore Orioles. They pull off the 11-6 win over Toronto. The Yankees hold on to a 7-6 win over the Mets. The Mets had the bases loaded in the 8th with 1 out. It was very difficult to focus on the game or on the show while that game was going on. Bottom of the 10th, Colorado right now with a 7-6 lead over Boston, who is coming up to the plate. Milwaukee with a 5-4 lead over the Twins in the bottom of the 9th, but the Twins have a runner at second with nobody out. Giants over the Cardinals 9-2 in the 8th. Angels over the Rangers now 4-3 in the 8th inning. Cubs with a 3-2 lead over the Pirates. 3-2 bottom 5. Cincinnati over the Royals 5-4 in the 9th. Houston up 5-1 over Washington in the bottom of the 8th inning. Looks like they'll get the win there. Scoreless in Oakland. Tampa Bay really struggling with the A's. They're in the bottom of the 4th. Seattle with a 3-0 lead over Miami in the 4th. San Diego already up 5-1 over Cleveland in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Gary Sanchez on my bench hit a 3-run home run. Darn it. Philadelphia with a 6-0 lead over Arizona in the top of the 3rd, and the Dodgers already up 4-0 over the White Sox.
Eric's Panthers just scored. It is now a 7-2 Knights lead.
There you go. Harry, you did miss us. We have talked about Sterling getting thwacked. We played the audio clip. It was fantastic. By the way, if anybody out there would like to tell me at 3 p.m. Pacific time who to start or bench on my fantasy team, I would appreciate it. The amount of bench dingers that I have this year is insane. Absolutely insane. Gary Sanchez with a home run. I figured, all right, he's out of Colorado now. He'll slow down finally. No, just kidding. Gosh darn it. Absolute mess. Let's get into this.
The other mess.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other mess going on.
The other mess.
I know Eric's going to like this.
The PGA and Live merger, which has created a giant mess. It happened. It was the day of our show last week, right? It was like that morning
June
of. So
6th.
we were still trying to figure things out. It's been a week. We are still trying to figure things out. The government is starting to get involved. Jay Monahan is blaming the government for why he took the merger and why he's like, I'm not going to be able to battle with these legal fees, so we're just going to take the Saudi money and run. I've seen ideas to give all of those players that stuck with the PGA like cuts of the PGA or whatever this merger will be, so they like have stock options or something. It's a disaster. It's a mess. And I don't know if it's going to go through.
What's really crazy is some of the words and terms that keep coming out of the players, some of that stuck around for PGA. You heard today with the word from John Rahm, he thinks that management of PGA betrayed them, which you hear that. And I think that just puts more of a scar on what Jay Monahan's doing and what these guys are. I know they're there to make money. They're trying to make money on a daily basis, but I think the big thing is seeing what Rory McIlroy has been saying about some of these guys sticking around. I mean, it's been Rory holding up this tour with his comments and protecting what PGA is doing. And for him to start getting vocal about the point of the disappointment of what is happening, I think is big. But to bring in the idea of Congress in to talk about the Saudi money and shifting around, that is just, it's scary to think about. Okay, now the United States is all worried about what's happening with Saudi Arabia getting into our beloved sport.
Listen, here's the thing that would absolutely drive me nuts. And I have not contacted Gino to see how he and Joel are feeling about any of this right now. But especially if you are a Rory, that you stuck around and you wanted to stay with the PGA and keep them strong. You didn't run for the money. And I'm not blaming any player to run for the money. Absolutely, go get paid. If somebody's going to, like, I'm getting paid so much right now to cover Lewiston Bengal baseball and basketball and some LCSC sports as well. And I'm having a lot of fun doing that. I'm hoping to get paid more by somebody else to do something else. Is Denny Grubb going to call me a sellout? Maybe as a joke, but I would hope he would understand that you got to go get the money. Absolutely go out and get yours. So I'm not blaming the players in this. However, PGA begged these players, please stick with us. Don't chase the money. The Live Golf thing is just this weird flash in the pan thing. We've been here for decades. Please stick with us. I know you won't make as much, but please stay with us. So the players went, you know what? We're sticking with them. We're going to stay with the PGA. We're going to make this work. And the PGA went, well, our majors are dipping in quality, and the ratings are going down because we're not allowing these big names back into the tournament. So I guess we can let them play the majors, which is a slap in the face already to the golfers. And now they're going, you know what? We begged you not to take the money. Now we are taking the money, and you're just screwed. Your ways of being a good guy just gets smashed in your face like a whipped cream pie. And so I saw that happen at Addie's kindergarten graduation, and it was a great analogy that I wanted to use. It's just a mess, and I feel really bad for all of the players that stuck with the PGA. I'm switching to the Eminem show. I'm sure there is one. I'm sure there's an Eminem show somewhere. So it's going to be a complete mess.
And like I asked you, do you think Monahan gets let go? Does PGA? How does that work? Is PGA or the players that back this? Do they go after what Monahan is done, and is he out as commissioner?
No, absolutely not. Because I'll tell you this right now, I don't know how it is going to work with PGA with them being nonprofit organization and stuff. So this could be different. But Harry's going to understand what I'm about to say. Everyone wanted Vince McMahon out of the WWE. He had all the sexual allegations and everything was going on. He stepped down, of all things, came back, as he said, to broker this deal with I almost said Fightful. Who the hell did they sign up? The UFC group that I'm blanking on. The something.
Something.
Anyways, whoever
Something
owns UFC, they sign with them, and you know what happens? Vince McMahon gets given a seat at the table. If PGA and Liv can make this work, Endeavor, thank you. I'll give Harry credit too. If a deal is done and the government okays it and everything, Monahan is going to get a seat at the table for allowing this to happen. Monahan is not going to lose his job. He may even get promoted through all of this. So Monahan, once again, screwed over all of his players, and he's just going to rake in all the money, and just shows you nice guys do finish last sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting.
I absolutely hate it. The more that this is drawn on, the more I absolutely hate it. And I don't blame Liv, and I don't blame the golfers of Liv or the golfers of the PGA. It's just money-hungry corporate entities that continue to ruin everything. Period. And it's happening in all sports. I do believe in the next 10 years, this same Saudi group is going to own a team in one of the three major sports. Mm-hmm. If not in all three. They're going to continue this insurgence of our sports to clean up their act or whatever, or their image, and it's just a mess. And I hate it. And I hate it for the players.
And I think that's the biggest thing I'm kind of worried about is how is the thing going? How are some of the players going to come back and try to coexist together? It'll be interesting to see as, you know, they come back in the tournaments that they play. And I'm wondering if that is a little bit of why the U.S. Open just dropped two players together for opening round, as Rory McIlroy has been paired up with Brooks Koepka. With all this going on, they have now been paired up to start the U.S. Open this weekend. It doesn't make things a little uneasy as they play another major, the third major of the year.
Maybe. It depends on how serious they take it with each other, or if they're just going to go out there and play. I really think that Rory McIlroy is more mad at the higher ups than he is the players right now. He could be disappointed with the players, but I think his anger is pointed elsewhere.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially with there's still no framework. This is far from being done. I know that for 100%, and it will be quite interesting going in. As I just said, U.S. Open starts on Thursday. It is the first time that the U.S. Open will be in Los Angeles. First time in 126 years it has ever been played in L.A., so it should be a great tournament. Hopefully we get some good golf out of it. I did share the picture with you. What did you think about the player parking sign with
Joel? It was pretty funny. I liked the Joel sign. It was good.
If any of you have not seen it, they talked about players parking of where they are valet parking. And at the very bottom, it said there was an asterisk that said Joel Damon proceed to lot some. I want to say it was L4, F4, or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
F something.
So,
all right, there you go. That's our talk on that mess. Let's get into some more fun stuff. Aussie rules football, where the old Hawthorne Hawks got a big win against a team that is up there on the ladder. Hawthorne got the win 98-73. It was a lot closer than that to the last few minutes, and the Hawks finally turned things around. But as a Hawks supporter, I can tell you that any time that Hawthorne has been in that situation, the result has been exactly the opposite. Let's go ahead and run down some of the other games of the week.
Yeah, Port Adelaide defeated Western 107-85. Also, St. Kilda knocked off Sydney 80-66. Port Adelaide beat Eric's Western Bulldogs 107-85. Richmond knocked off Fremantle 85-70. GWS knocked off North Melbourne 103-75. Essendon over Carlton 86-52. Not when I saw this score, I was a little shocked. Adelaide, we know they're good, but 174 to West Coast 52, crazy. And I called it, and I said it. It was going to be a great game. I actually stayed up Sunday night and watched this game live. But Melbourne and Collingwood was a terrific game. If you have not watched the highlights, you need to watch the highlight. But Melbourne holds on to a 66-62 win. Collingwood scored with 26 seconds to put themselves in a chance to win this one, but has to be one of the good games of the week, if not the year so far.
Oh, Harry asked table. There's your table, sir. I'm still working on the graphics, but it's up. I've been working on it. There you go. You have a first cut look at the table here. Why don't you talk about the table there, Robert?
Well, the table looks quite well, at least for Geelong, still getting chance to get in there. But it is going to be, I think, a fight between positions 4 through 11. It's going to be crazy. But I think North Melbourne, isn't that Harry's team?
He's a North Melbourne fan. And he asked the table, I brought up the ladder. I don't know. TLC's going on over here.
I think he's going to have a chance of he's got a chance of maybe winning the wooden spoon.
I don't know. West Coast has been looking horrible. West Coast is not good. Luckily for West Coast, they are off this week. North Melbourne, like Eric had mentioned, gets the Western Bulldogs, who are just hanging in. Yes, you do. It's helping my Hawthorn Hawks not look as bad at 4-9. It's interesting. Eric's team, the last team in right now, your Geelong Cats, the last team out right now. Still a long ways to go. We're about a little over halfway through the season. But it is starting to get into crunch time. Collingwood and Port Adelaide look like they are locked in to make the top 8, most likely top 4, so they will have a better chance on the playoffs. We'll talk about that more as the show goes on. But once again, we will say right now, if you are listening to us and you are not like Eric or Harry or Robert or myself, and you don't watch Aussie Rules football, do it. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a lot of fun. However, for the most part, you have to DVR this stuff or watch the highlights on AFL, or just go on AFL website. I was going to say it, but it has a weird, it's like afl.au something. I forget. But go to the Aussie Rules website and you can find all of the matches in full the next day. Yep. So as long as you can get there without seeing results, or you don't care about being spoiled, you can watch every game of Aussie Rules football on their website.
AFL.com's .au. Yep.
There you go.
Eric's right. So
we continue to try to promote this sport. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting week for us as Geelong takes on number 2 Port Adelaide. So it is going to be a slobber. Let's just say it, a slobber knocker, as Jim Ross
have that.
I know.
Thing.
But
we need to make a clip of that and put it on my instance.
Patrick Dangerfield is back for Geelong, so I'm excited about that. This week's TV schedule, it's okay. Brisbane versus Sydney on Friday morning. And then Saturday, we look at Richmond taking on St. Kilda. That's the other game that's on TV this week. Northwestern, so here we go. It is Harry versus Eric this week. It's North Melbourne taking on Western, and your Hawthorn Hawks has the bye week.
What?
Having fun. I got nothing. Yeah, Hawthorn with the bye. So we're not going to lose back-to-back weeks. It's going to be great.
No.
That way, Hawthorn. Yeah, actually, they've won 3 of their last 4. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, there's not a ton of games with just 6 games on the bye. So my scoreboard is going to have to get a little creative now with even less games going on. As you said, the U.S. Open is this week.
11:40 Pacific time, Harry, was when you guys will be playing. So 2:40 your time.
Should put a TV schedule on one of my tabs, I guess. I'll work on it. I'm working on things, guys. There's a lot of work going on in the back. Anyways, go ahead. U.S. Open this week. Who do you got to win?
I think somebody's going to come out like a house of fire. I'm going to say I'm taking Rahm. I think Rahm comes out and just he's talked with emotion this week about everything going on. I think he finds the emotion and he puts it out on the course. I'm gonna take Jon Rahm. And Harry, no TV for that one this week.
I don't know who to take. Scotty Scheffler. Why not? Let's take Scotty Scheffler. I think has the best odds. So I will go with that route, I guess.
We'll talk really quick about the Canadian Open from this last week. Unbelievable. They're in Canada, the first Canadian in 69 years to win a Canadian Open. Nick Taylor defeats Tommy Fleetwood. If you have not watched the last 4 holes of the playoffs, it was crazy. They played 18-18 over to 9.
Go ahead.
And back to 18. But Nick Taylor ends up hitting his longest shot of his PGA career to beat Tommy Fleetwood. He hit a 72-yard putt. So unbelievable. If you have not watched that clip, go watch him, his wrap up of the tournament.
Mm-hmm. What happened in bowling this week, sir?
For the PWBA, let's spit it out. Jordan Richards, she is unbelievable. She's won her second title in a row, third of the season. She is the money leader. Makes another $20,000 at the Bowlers Journal Cleveland Open. If you have not watched her bowl, she is unbelievable. This tournament will be broadcasted on the 20th on the CBS network. So next Tuesday, prior to our show, it will air. So go and watch them. Some of the top names in that one. So looking forward to that. The big women's tournament is coming up this weekend. The women's U.S. Open is happening in New York. So it'll be a good week of bowling tournament for the ladies.
And as for NASCAR, Martin Truex Jr. won the race at Sonoma. There was different strategies going on. A late caution kind of changed things, but Truex Jr. was absolutely dominant in that race. Kyle Busch finished second. Logano finished third. Chris Buescher fourth. And Chase Elliott, after his one race suspension, finished in fifth. NASCAR has the week off as they will be traveling to Nashville in 2 weeks. Looks like Golden Knights now up 8-3, just under 2 minutes to go there. Couple score updates for you in Major League Baseball. Colorado does hold on to beat Boston 7-6. Minnesota with a big win over Milwaukee. I believe it was a walk-off because Williams gave up a home run to lose that game. Cincinnati beats Kansas City 5-4. Houston over Washington 6-1. A couple other just quick ones here. Tampa Bay now with a 1-0 lead over Oakland in the fifth. Seattle with a 5-0 lead over Miami in the bottom of the fourth inning. Philadelphia with a 6-0 lead now over Arizona, who we both had in our top 5 of our power rankings. Not 8-0. Yeah, at least you scored a couple times. Yeah, and Denny, once again, talking about the Twins. But that's going to do it for this show. We had a lot of fun. I swept every single vote in the sports-related draft.
I even took Cal Ripken and one of the
work?
greatest feat, and it did not work.
Actually, that's a good thing. We have 5 minutes here, so anybody like Harry wants to throw questions out, we'll answer them. The reverse boycott looks like it did happen. I did turn it on for a little bit. There was a lot of people with Sell shirts, so a lot of people showed up. It's just sad that the reverse boycott just maybe half full the stadium maybe 2/5 full, but that still looks much better than what Oakland usually does for the A's, and it's still a lot of players for what Tampa Bay plays in front of as well. Also, this has been a great day for anybody that used to play for the Yankees. Sanchez with a home run. I just got a notification. Mike Ford just hit a 2-run home run as well. So if you used to play for the Yankees, you did well today.
Yeah, looking at some of the pictures here just a second ago in this ball game from Oakland, still looks like there's a lot behind the plate. So they're drawing a few, but that just in the shot right there, it looks like there's a fair amount. So I'd like to see what the numbers come up with attendance.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be 30K.
I don't think it'll be anywhere close to 30K.
May be curious when they do come out with that official number, and it'll be kind of fun to see where they end up. Next week on the show, of course, we'll get into more baseball stuff. Hockey is now a minute away from being done. Basketball's in the rearview mirror, but we have the draft of that coming up. We may look at that for a minute.
Just went final.
There you go.
Vegas wins 9-3. 9-3.
So hockey is now done. We'll talk more about the College World Series, and we'll have some more fun stuff as well. Bill Walton 30 for 30 was good. I've not seen that one. The American Gladiators was really good. I will say that. Maybe an idea for a sports-related draft next week.
The best 30 of 30. I have not watched. I got to play catch up if you're going to go that way, because I
don't know if I will just yet, because I'm way behind too. But that's a good sports-related draft. I will say that. I'm trying to look at the box score, see if they have official attendance yet. They do not. It's a little early, bottom of the 5th inning right now, with Tampa Bay up to 1-0. Yeah, they're trying their best. I smell a bracket about this.
Hey, I want to know how is the design coming for the Harry versus or the Eric versus Denny?
I've not got there yet. I still need to watch more of the Stump the Schwab stuff, because I think I'm going to go that format. But yeah, they are trying to push the American Gladiators again. YouTube stuff. There's a lot of like side documentaries that are going on with it. It's interesting to see the behind the scenes stuff of that.
So you didn't know, and I just saw this because she made an appearance, but we talk about American Gladiators, but how about what's the one that they've been doing here lately? That is the one on NBC of where they climb the wall and do all the weird stuff too. Anyway, one of the ladies is actually a professional wrestler now, and she wrestles on NXT, and she made an appearance.
Was that Casey Catanzaro or whatever?
Yeah.
Ninja
she
Warrior.
used to be Ninja Warrior. That's what I was trying to. Yeah, that was.
Casey, I think, is on the wrestling game too.
Yeah, which is weird. I was very shocked to see that face, as I'm like, I remember watching her on Warrior.
Yeah, prize winning the trivia contest. We will come up with something, I think. We'll have some fun with it. So there you go. That will do it. Again, thank you to Harry, Eric, and Denny, as always, for hanging out. And anybody else that stuck around and watched any of this show, or are you watching it later on? We always appreciate you guys hanging out and supporting the show. 100 and whatever. The number's too high. I've lost my notes. Where are my notes? There are my notes. I have too many tabs open. 136th episode of the R&R Sports Report, and I still cannot do the outro cleanly. It's been a lot of fun. All right, next week, as scheduled again, we are here all summer long from our houses to do our summer version of this, minus July 4th. We will take that week off, and once we get into August, that's really when we will hit the football previews and get everything set, and baseball will be chugging along by then as well. But for Robert, I'm Randy. This is the R&R Sports Report, and until next week, we are out.